Hello friends, welcome back to my channel, and today we are back with another exciting tutorial. So we are back with the Kubernetes tutorial for beginners, and in this tutorial we are going to talk about how to set up Kubernetes cluster using Kubeadm on CentOs. So in our previous tutorials on Kubernetes we have used Minikube for our testing and learning these tutorials, but now we are going into actual production kind of setup where we will have a cluster, Kubernetes cluster. So when we talk about Kubernetes cluster, we had this section covered in one of my previous tutorial about the Kubernetes architecture. So what components we will have it in a cluster, like we will have a Kubernetes master or a control plane, and we will have workers or nodes. So we also discussed about different components which the control plane will have it, or the workers like API servers, etcd, schedulers, kubelet, kubeproxy. So all those things we have discussed in our previous tutorial on Kubernetes cluster. So you can have a look on that. I will link that video as well in this video description. So in this topic, what we are going to do is in our setup of Kubernetes cluster, we are going to have a Kubernetes master, and also we will have a Kubernetes nodes. So we'll have two worker nodes, one worker node and another worker node 2. So that will be our setup, where we'll have 3 machines. One will act as a Kubernetes master, and other 2 will act as a worker nodes. So we will see how to set up this kind of Kubernetes cluster in the section of this tutorial. So let's talk about some prerequisites what we want to do as part of our this tutorial. So to start with, we need 3 virtual machines. So it can be on your locally using Oracle VirtualBox or VMware Workstation. What we are going to use in our tutorial is like a local virtual machine for using Workstation, VMware Workstation. If you want to have it like a cloud machine, you can have that as well, because that's pretty easy. You can build some cloud servers, but I've been getting a lot of queries where people want to set up a Kubernetes cluster on there locally. So this will be using the local machine. So where we'll have a Kubernetes master and 2 worker nodes, and the Kubernetes master VM should have minimum configuration like 2 CPUs and 2 GB RAM minimum. If you don't have that configuration, then the installation will fail. So that will be the minimum configuration for master, and you can have worker node with 1 CPU or 1 GB, or you can have more than like 2 CPU. So it's up to you. So but master, this is a minimum requirement. And since we are using our VMware Workstation virtual machine, we will also assign some static IPs for this VM, so that the IP won't get changed, because in workstations, virtual machines, it will keep changing when you restart and all those things. Okay, so but if it's a cloud machine, probably you can directly go and use the standard IP address, and we will also set some host name for this VM, so we can use that as part of our total setup. So we will see all this step-by-step process. Okay, so I just want to tell you these are some prerequisites. If you have it, then it's pretty good. If not, I will show you how to do that as well. So let's talk about creating Kubernetes cluster using Kubeadm. What all the steps we will do. So please make sure that this is going to be a lengthy process, very complicated. Sometimes you will miss something here and there, and we may face some problem. So if you follow these steps clearly, I will also give each and every command which I run in this tutorial in the video description using my GitHub link. So you can go to the GitHub link and you can completely see the step-by-step instructions which we are running it. So you can just copy and paste those commands into your command prompt, or into your shell prompt. Okay, so what we will do is the first step should be like set the host name. So if you have not done it, so I will show you how to set the host name. Then we will set the static IP address. I will also show like how we can set the static IP, and we have to set some configuration in the host file, so that all the host name and IP address are configured, so machines can interact each other. And we will do SCLinux disabling. So if you know how to configure SCLinux based on your requirement, you don't need to disable it, but the simple option is you can disable SCLinux. And we also will disable firewall and make some edit in the IP tables. Here also you don't need to disable firewall, you need to give exceptions or rules for allowing some of the port numbers, but the easiest option is disable the firewall, so the configurations, it can happen all those port numbers. Okay, so then we will set up the Kubernetes repo, because we need to install Kubeadm. So for that we need to set up the Kubernetes repo, and then we will install Kubeadm and also Docker, and then once the installation is completed, we will enable and start the services for Kubeadm and Docker. Okay, so moving on, once we do that, then we have other steps as well. So as I said, it's a lengthy process, so we have to disable swap on those machines, and we will initiate the Kubernetes cluster, okay, on the master first. Then we will get the token for the joining the nodes, so we'll make a note of that. And we'll also install the pod network using CALICO network on the master, so that it can interact with the nodes. And then we will run the command to join the worker nodes to the master on the worker nodes. So all these steps we don't have to do it on the master and the nodes, so I have separated what has to be run on the nodes, what has to be run on the master node. When we do the process, I will show you, like, each commands. This command has to be run only on the master, this has to be run both on worker and master, and this has to be run only on the worker node. So that has been also segregated. So when you see the command wise, when we run it, I will show you which has to be run on which machine. So before I get into the actual demo process, I would request you, like, if you are new to my channel or if you have not subscribed to my channel, click on the subscribe button, and also like my videos, share and comment. So let's see the actual demo process. Now if you see, I have this machine which is set as master. Okay, so, and I also have other two machines. This is worker 1 and this one is worker 2. So 3 CentOs machine I have it ready. So the host name I have already set it, but I will show you how to set the host name as well. So you can set your host name, and it's not mandatory that you need to give K8s master. You can give any name based on your requirement. So let's get into the actual commands which we are going to run. So the first step I said, it's the setting of host name. So set host name CTL, host name CTL, set host name and the name of the host name. That should be the command which you need to run. So on the master I have set as K8 master, so I'll run that, and on the worker node I will run as the name worker 1 and the other worker 2. So if you see, this command is applicable for both master and worker. So based on which machine, you can set the host name based on that. So you can run this command, and you can set the host name as per your requirement. If you want to give the same name, you can give that, otherwise you can use a different name. So you just go to the machine and run the command, like so you just run the command like hostname CTL set hostname and the name of your machine. So if you want to give something else, you just give that name and run it. So since I already set it, I'm not going to run it. The next step is, like, you need to assign a static IP on this virtual machines. So as I said, since I'm using a virtual workstation machine, so I don't want the IP to keep changing, so I would prefer to set a static IP. So you can run this command nmcl icon. This is available command on the CentOs machine. So this tutorial is applicable for CentOs. Okay, so once you run it, you will see what kind of network it's using and the name of the network. And what you can do is you can go to this location /etc sysconfig network script, and this name ifcfg-ens33. so the ens33 is in my case. So when you run this nmcl icon, it will show you what is the name. So depending upon that name, this will change. So please look for the network on your machine, and you check this file. Okay, so once you go there, you can have to make some changes. So this is how a sample static file will look like. The type is Ethernet for my case, so if it's different for you, you have to set that. And proxy method is set none, and browser no, boot pro no, none, and the IP address, you may not have this IP address in the case of DHCP, So you need to add an IP address, and I have set the IP address as 107. In your case, your IP address range will be different, so based on that you need to set the IP address. So this is an example, and if you prefix, you can give 24 subnets. So, and you can use a gateway. So the gateway has to be based on your router or your network gateway. So this is just a sample I have given, and you have to give us some DNS so that it can interact with outside, like if you want download or something. So you set this DNS, and default route yes, IPv4 you have to set no, and IPv6 you have to set no. And the name, as I said, the name will change for you, so you just set the name based on your network device and name. Okay, and UID also will change based on your network, so use that UID. So let me show you, like I already set the IP, static IP over here. So let me run those commands, and then let me show you how you can set it. So if you run this command nmcli space con, it will show you the name of your network, the UID, type, and the device, right? So this will tell you, like, okay, so in your case it may like ENS 08 or something, then it will change based on that. Okay, so I'm going to go to this location /etc/sysconfig network scripts, and if I list down, you see I have a file called ifc ens33, right? So this 33 coming from this name, and I have already set the static IP over here. If you see, I have a file called old. So the one which was the DHCP I have made as old. So let me just open that one so you can see how the DHCP would like. So in the DHCP you can see like the boot pro is DHCP, right? And we don't have an IP address range and all those things. And if I go to this file, which I have created a new one, you can see the difference. Boot pro is none, and we have a few settings over here like IP address, prefix, gateway, and some settings, right? And the IPv6 all are set as no. So you can compare the DHCP. You can go to your machine, you can copy these contents for the DHCP, and you can make the modification based on what should be done for the static. Okay, and as I said, I will give all these links and this documentation for what I have set it, so you can just refer the GitHub link, and you can refer it, and you can compare it with your system, and you can change it. Okay, so let me clear out the screen. So you have to do this static IP on all machine master and the worker nodes, and you set a different static IP on all those machines. So the next step is, like, once you have a static IP assigned, you have to put those entries in the /etc host file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the IP address, for example 192.168.0, and IP dot, I think it's 106 for K8 master and 107 for worker and 108 for worker 2. So all these details I'm going to put into the /etc/host in all these 3 machines. So you can see all these steps you have to do it on all the machines, both worker and master. One thing I have left is, like, once you make the changes for the static IP, you need to restart the network. So you need to run the systemctl restart network, then only the network setting will be set. Okay, so I just forgot that to be informed. Now let's set our etc host file. So I'm going to run this command cat end of file and etc. So I'm going to run this file. Okay, now if I go to read the file /etc/host, now you can see I have added these files into the same file, right? So now let me run that into the other machine as well. So this is the worker 1, so I'm going to run this on the worker 1 and also on the worker 2. Okay, so we are done on all the machines. Okay, so once we set the etc host, the next step is to disable SELinux. So to disable SELinux, you need to run this command. So I will give this commands as well. You can just copy and run those commands from the GitHub link. Okay, so let me go and run these commands. So it should be CentOs 0, and the next one is this command. Okay, so both these commands I have to run it on all the machines. So I'm running those in the worker machine as well, and the worker 2 as well. Okay, so we are done from the SE Linux side. We have run the commands on all the 3 machines. Okay, so SE Linux is disabled. So once you disable the SE Linux, the next step is to disable the firewall, and we also need to make some changes in the IP tables. So for that, what we will do is first we will run the command systemctl disable firewall d. And as I said, this is not a straightforward ways. There are different ways you can set up a Kubernetes cluster. Okay, so you can run commands to just accept some firewall ports, and that is the one option. But I would say like this is the simplest way. So you can also run the other command like modproc br netfilter and echo the bridge IP table. So these commands will make those changes which is necessary for our Kubernetes cluster setup. So let's run those also. So let me run that. Okay, you can see that. Let me run the other commands as well. Okay, so you need to run this on the other worker nodes as well. So let me do that and come back. So I'm running it on the worker node as well. So we are done on the both workers. Okay, so let me clear out the screen. So I have done it on both the worker node as well, and also on the master. So we are done from the firewall settings and IP table settings. So once we do that, the next step is like we need to set up the Kubernetes repo. So this command will add repo. So if you see, like I'm using the base URL Kubernetes E17 x64 64 x86-64, right? So if you read the Kubernetes documentation, there is other way, like you can search the base search, which will also look for some latest version. But I would say like I will go with this repo directly, and I will add it, and I will use that for installing Kubeadm, and then I will install Docker as well. So I will use this command, and you can use this as well. If you find any problem, you can let us know. So let me run this command on the machine. So we have to run it on all 3 machines. So I will run it. So for you, it's pretty simple. Like you just copy and paste it from my documentation, which I will give it in the video description. So don't worry. So you don't have to worry much about what command you have to search. So we have done the repo addition. Now the next step is like we need to install Kubeadm and Docker. And once the installation is completed, we need to enable and start the service for Kubeadm and Docker as well. So what to do that? You will run the command like yum install Kubeadm docker -y, and also we will run these commands like enable kubeadm docker commands. Okay, so we'll enable the kubeadm and Docker on the machine as well once we complete the installation of Kubeadm and Docker. So let me run the command yum install Kubeadm docker -y. Okay, so that's the command. So let me run this. So it may take some time because it has to download the plugins and all those things from the internet, and then it will go through the process. It may take a few minutes for depending upon your internet speed, and I will run these things on all the 3 machines, master and the worker nodes. Then I will come back once the installation is completed. So you can see the Kubeadm and Docker installation is completed on the master. Okay, let me enable the kubelet and Docker as well. So in order to enable, you need to run systemctl enable kubelet, and we need to start it. So I will run start kubelet. Okay, and in order to enable Docker, I will run systemctl enable Docker, and we need to start it that as well. Okay, so that is done on the master. I will do the same thing on the worker node as well, so it may take some time. I will be back once that is done. So as I said, I'm just running it on the worker 1 and also worker 2. I'll be back once the installation is completed. Okay, great. So we completed the installation of Kubeadm and Docker, and we have also enabled Kubelet and Docker on both the worker machines. Now we can move on to the next step. So once we complete that, the next step is like we need to disable swap. So you can use swap off -a, but I think the problem is like once you restart the machine, the swap will enable again. So I would suggest like you can run that, and also you go to this etc/fs tab and you edit the file, and there will be a line which have a swap keyword which you just comment it. So let's do that. Okay, this is also we'll do it on both master and worker nodes. So I will run swap off, and I will also go to this file vi/etc/fs tab, and you can see there is a line called device mapper CentOs swap, right? So what I will do is I will just comment this line and just save it. So I will do the same thing on the other machines as well. So I'm doing this on the worker node as well. So I'm done in both the worker node as well, so we can move on to the next step. So let's go back to our master. So great, so now we are into almost to the initialization phase. So we have set up our machines with the Kubelet and Docker and all those configurations. Now we can initialize the cluster. So this command, what we are doing is only applicable on the master node. You don't have to run these commands on the worker, so please be careful on that. So this is to initialize your master. Okay, so we are going to use Kubeadm init. So once you run it, it will take some time, it will download some images and all those things, then it will tell you you need to run some other commands as well. So those commands will be like mkdirp home cube, and you need to copy some config file, and also you need to give some ownership. Also what you need to do is like once you run Kubeadm init, it will also give you configuration or Kubeadm or kubelet join command, which will be used to join the worker node. So you just need to copy that, and you need to keep it somewhere in a notepad, because you need to use that to add your worker node to your master. Okay, so once you run the Kubeadm, you need to make sure that you copy that command which comes out of it. So let's see that what we get. So for initializing the master, so we are going to run, so you see I'm running it on the master, so you don't run it on the worker, because this will make this machine as the master. Okay, so I'm going to run Kubeadm init. So I'm going to run Kubeadm init on the master machine. So let's wait. So it may do some pre-check when you run this command, and as I said, you may see some firewall options and everything. I mentioned like if you're also the CPU and the memory and all those things, it will check, and if it's find some of configuration is having conflict, the pre-flight checks, if it's failed, then it will not move to the next phase. So that's what I said, we need to have that configurations of 2 CPU and 2 GB RAM. If you don't have it, it will fail here. Okay, and now if you see, it's doing the pulling of some config image files. So you can do this manually before we run this as well, but it's not a problem. It will take some time to do this Kubeadm config image pull action. So let's keep it running, then we will be back once this is completed. So as you can see, the whole process is completed, and you can see we got a command for Kubeadm join with the IP token number, right? So you need to copy that, and you do keep it somewhere. So I will copy that into a notepad. Okay, so you can see it also tell you like to start your cluster, you need to run this command as a regular user, right? So you need to run this command as well. So since I'm already running as a root user, I'm going to run without the sudo, because I don't need the sudo for a root user. If you are running as a regular user, you need to add the sudo command. Okay, so this process what we run init, you see like it has done the whole process, and this kube config image pull, this may take some time. Okay, because for me it took around 10-15 minutes depending upon your PC and the internet connection. So if it's taking some time, don't worry, just leave it running. So once it get completed, you will get this message. So what you need to do is we need to run this command to start the cluster. Okay, so let's clear out this screen and let me run this command. Okay, and the one to copy the config file and taking the ownership of the file. Okay, so now we run this command. Okay, so we are done with that part, and as I said, I also copied that Kubeadm join command, which we will use it for adding to the worker node. So don't do anything now, I will tell you what we had to do. So now, since we have completed the initialization, we can check the status. So if I run kubectl get nodes, you can see our master, the control plane master is available, but the status is not ready, right? This is because we have not installed the pod networks. So that will be our next step. Okay, so let's go to the next step. So once we completed the Kubeadm init and we got the join command, and also we run those commands to start the cluster, since the cluster is not ready status, we need to install a pod network using the CALICO network. Okay, so we are using CALICO network here. So to run to set up this pod network, you need to run this command curl this YAML file. Okay, you need to download it, then you need to apply the CALICO YAML file. Okay, so that should be the overall process. So once you run it, you can check the kubectl get pods, and under the kube system, if you see, it may start creating some new pods. Okay, so that is required for the whole Kubernetes cluster. So you need to wait until all the pods are running, then you can check the status of your Kubernetes master node. Okay, then you should be changed to ready status. So let's check that. So let me run this command for downloading the YAML file. And again, these commands are only required on the master node. You don't need to run this on the worker node. So let me show you what are the pods running first. If you go to kubectl get pods and the namespace kube system, you can see some of things are running, right? You have API master, right? Controller, proxy, scheduler, right? Now let's apply our CALICO system. So I'm going to apply the kubectl apply calico.yaml. So now we can see it started creating quite some things. And now if I go and check the pods, you can see it started creating these things, and it's pending, right? You can see CALICO nodes, right? So let's wait. Okay, you can see it's changing the containers. It's trying to create the container for CALICO, right? And also the init containers, it's changing. So let's wait. You can also see like this core DNS is now getting created, container is creating. So let's wait for all these status change to running. Okay, almost done. We have one more container getting created, so you can see others, all status is changed running. Okay, great. So you can see now all the pods are running, and we can see all the status are running now, right? So now let's go back and we see kubectl get nodes. Now you can see the status is changed ready for our master node, right? So it's a great sign that our master is ready now. So the next step is, like, since our master is ready, we need to join the worker nodes now. So in order to join the worker node, we have this Kubeadm join and the command which we got when we run the Kubeadm init, right? Which we have copied and kept it in our notepad. So let's run that into your worker node. So this has to be done only on the worker node. Okay, you don't have to do this. So this step is specifically for the worker node. So let me go to the worker one and let me run this command, which we copied it from our master node when we run the Kubeadm, and let's wait for this to be completed. You can see it's running some pre-flight checks. So, and we will see what the message we get. Hopefully it will complete the normal process, and we get a message like this worker node is added to the cluster. Great. So we have our worker node added. So you can see this node has been joined to the cluster. I have run the same command on the worker too, so you can see here also it has been joined. So one thing I just want to share, even though we have disabled the firewall, if you get any message like dial TCP the port number 6443, connect no route to the host, what you need to do is you need to do some firewall exception for those port number alone. And how you can do that is you can run this command. You can run the command sudo firewall cmd add port 64443 permanent, and you can restart the firewall. So once you do that, that port will be open and you should be able to add your worker node. Okay, so again I will give these commands as well in the description, so you can do that as well. So let's check kubectl get nodes. Now you can see the worker 2 is ready, worker 1 is still not ready, so we need to wait. Okay, so it just added, so we'll wait for some more time. Great, so you can see all our nodes are ready. You can see our master, the control plane master is ready, and we have 2 worker Kubernetes nodes. So our Kubernetes cluster is ready. So this is not a high available cluster because you don't have 2 masters, you have only 1 master, but you have high available nodes. So in case of your application side, you can have high availability for application as far as your master is running. You have multiple nodes, so worker nodes, so your application can run on any one of the nodes. Okay, sure. But as I said, it's not a high available with the master setup where we have 2 masters. We will see that in the upcoming tutorial, but this is a great start for you, so you can set up your own Kubernetes cluster with 1 master and multiple worker node in your own machine or using your cloud VMs. Then you can start learning on more about that. So just to give you a recap, what we did is we set the host name, assigned static IP, we did some changes in the host file, we disabled the SE Linux, we disabled the firewall and edit some IP table. Regarding the firewall, as I said, even though it's disabled, we need to do some opening a port for connecting from master to worker, so which I will also share it in the documentation. We set up the Kubernetes repo, we install the Kubeadm and Docker, we enable kubelet and Docker services. We also disable swap, we initialize the Kubernetes cluster, and we copied the command to join the worker node to enable the nodes. We have installed the port network using CALICO network, and then we joined our worker nodes. So overall, these are the complete stuff we did it. So that is all for this tutorial. So there are quite a lot of commands which we need to run. So thank you for watching. I hope this tutorial is really informative for you and you can set up your own Kubernetes cluster. So kindly subscribe to my videos for getting more videos and more updates from my end, and also keep supporting by liking the video, sharing and comment, giving your feedback.